First of all,
oh, hell yeah!
I love that. I love that so much. First of all, thank you so much for coming to San Jose. Are you guys excited he's here? I'm so excited to talk to you. I mean, you're such an epic personality. And first of all, congratulations on your new show, which just launched.
Thank you
Straight
very
up,
much.
Steve
I'm so
Austin.
proud of that show. Got a chance to do the show with USA Network. They gave me a call out of the blue and said, hey, we got this idea. We think you might be okay at it. And so we sat around the table and all of a sudden we shot a pilot. A year went by and I'm thinking, hey, I guess this thing's dead in the water. And they started testing it and people started really liking it. And so we decided to film 6 more. So anyway, I'm super proud of the show. It's on every Monday night. I'll go ahead and plug it right now, hell. Tell 2 friends and then tell them to tell 2 friends. But anyway, it's every Monday night after Monday Night Raw on the USA Network. And my guest this Monday is Sal Vulcano from Impractical Jokers. And we have an absolute blast.
Well, the thing that's interesting, people might think like, oh, he has a show, it's like a talk show. No, it's total badass adventure, like action. Can you kind of walk us through, you know, what you might do in an episode?
You know, depending on my guest, you know, I'll either introduce them to something from my world like Becky Lynch. She's never been on a four-wheeler in her life. And, you know, man, that's one of the things I do. Is you saw that clip of me driving that four-wheeler on that limo. You know, I've been riding four-wheelers my whole life. So to get a chance to introduce her to something like that, or to take Trace Adkins in a monster truck, which I've also driven a lot, you know, in my days making personal appearances. And me getting a chance to go around a racetrack with Dale Earnhardt Jr. So it's basically, you know, myself and a guest hanging out and getting to know each other and, you know, bonding and forming that chemistry and that conversation through these activities and through humor.
Well, it's funny, you bring up Becky Lynch, and I'm a big fan of her as well. She's been compared to you, compared as the female, you know, Stone Cold. Do you think that's a fair comparison?
It is, and it's, I mean, it is, but I think Becky, the man, is her own entity. You know, I was kind of the anti-authority thing, and, you know, I process things, information, maybe a little bit differently than she does. And she's very well-spoken. She's a badass promo. She's very confident. You know, when you watch this show, if you watch this show, it's a 30-minute show. That's 22 minutes of content. But it takes all day to film this thing. So I hang out with these people 12 hours during the day, so you really get a chance to know them. And Becky just lives right down the street from me, but she's always on the road. So just to hang out with her and get a sense of who and what she is and how hard she's worked, and to take the women's division of professional wrestling to the heights that she and Charlotte and Rhonda contributed to that, all of the women. So it's just amazing, but she's a badass person. Is there a comparison? Yes, but she's the man, Becky Lynch, and I was Stone Cold.
Absolutely, definitely agree with that. You grew up and you know, your generation of superstars was different, was in a way wilder, and you guys kind of got away with anything. What do you see now with this new generation, that the limitations they have put on them, that you guys kind of, you know, didn't have any rules written at that point?
You know, there were rules, but man, we could go out there and break them, just because this was before it was a publicly traded company, and it was still almost considered the Wild Wild West. And those guys and gals out there in the current scene, they're just as competitive as we are. They're probably as talented, if not more, you know, more talented than we were. But man, you were able to push the envelope creatively back in the day. And just because now it's a publicly traded company for the obvious reasons. So it is what it is, but I mean, you can still take the business to the heights that it was. I just think there needs to create that sense of urgency and that atmosphere. And in my opinion, you know, wins and losses do matter. You can't have 50-50 booking, but you can still entertain the hell out of people and just have that sense of urgency. And you know, back in the day, when I look back at some of these highlights from back in the day, and you know, every time we went to a Monday Night Raw, it was almost like we're living on the road so much, and we loved it, but you're like a zombie, and you just go from town to town. Mm-hmm. You get home, you throw your stuff down in your suitcase, you wash whatever's dirty, you just throw it right back. And you think you needed some days off, but then it's like, hey man, I'm bored, I gotta get back out on the road. So you get back out on the road. And we got problems just like everybody else did. And it almost seemed like when you watch some of those badass moments at Monday Night Raw, hell, every time I got a chance to go to Monday Night Raw, that was like a therapy session for me. To be able to elicit a response from the crowd and watching these guys pop while all that stuff was happening, I was like a kid in a candy store having the time of my life. But, you know, it's a different day and age now, and I think the guys and gals are better athletes, but hey man, you know, I always think, and in the business of pro wrestling, sports entertainment, emotions, you know, move, you know, everything, and they sell, that sells tickets or creates interest, so, you know, more character work.
Yeah, what is it like in a Monday Night Raw situation to come out and make that entrance? I mean, you make quite an entrance. What does that feel like?
I really wish I could explain. It's such an addictive feeling, and I can't compare it to anything I've ever done. But it's so exciting and it's so gratifying because you work your tail off to get over in the business, and to get over is to be, you know, received at the highest level. Whether you're working babyface or heel, it's the same thing. So you're working for that response. And so when I turned into the massive babyface that I did, even though I was doing heel things, I had, you know, the one in a million Jim Ross. He knew how to cover the actions that I was doing. I was a non-traditional babyface. You couldn't push me in a traditional way. But to go back to what you're saying, just like when we had the reunion in Tampa a couple of weeks ago, I knew I was gonna, well, I was hoping I was gonna blow the roof off that building, and I did.
You did.
And anything less, and I would have felt it, maybe no one else would have, but I would have. So it's just an amazing feeling that each night you go out there, whether it's 100, 250, or 20,000, you want the max from those people, and they gave it to me, and it's, you live and die by it every single time you go out there.
It was an amazing, amazing moment when you came out during that. It was great.
And we'll just thank you again, Tampa. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Tampa. Somebody shout out to Tampa. We're going to take questions, so we're going to line up at the mic. You guys, I'm sure, have been in a panel before. We'll get through as many as we can. And while they're sort of lining up, you obviously were in The Expendables, which is an awesome film. What was it like to work with that cast?
You know, I wasn't in the movie a whole lot, but, you know, I really got a chance to hang out with Sly a lot and fighting with him in a dungeon down there, you know, underground New Orleans. Just on a concrete floor rolling around in the sand. Here's a quick story. I was number 32 on the call sheet. Sly was number 1. So I was down in the fight camp for 3 weeks, you know, learning this badass fight. And Sly he wrote, he's directing, he's starring in it. And he approved the fight as you saw it on a monitor, but he didn't truly know the fight. So we go out there, we're scrapping, and because he doesn't technically know the fight, and I do, and we headbutted each other. And Sly got a couple of stitches right above his hairline, so we had to call it a day. But here's the thing, when you're number 32 on the call sheet, and you're fighting with number 1, and even though he effed up, it's my fault, because he's number 1 on the call sheet. But it was a lot of fun, and I find being on movie sets kind of boring or monotonous or same old, so I'm really happy, you know, doing the things I'm doing with my show. But Sly was badass, and all those guys were super cool.
Well, it's a really good point. I mean, the pace and the live aspect of what you guys do, filming can be so long and dry. You know, filming one scene, probably the fight scene, took several days, I would imagine.
It does. Well, it took 2 days, and they left the best part of that, me kicking his tail out of that fight scene, because there was a lot more ass whooping than they showed. But it was fun. But I'm a loner, and so hanging around people all day, you know, sometimes it gets on my nerves. I'm glad all y'all showed up. But left to my own devices, I love being by myself.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I gotta make a solo movie where I'm the only actor.
Hey, a one-man show. I mean, I can see it happening. Hi, we'll start with your question. How are you?
Hi. This is a question for. Oh, who am I kidding? You're like the only guy on stage. So, you know, with the advent and oncoming popularity of AEW, do you think that their entrance into the professional wrestling scene signifies a similar situation with the Monday Night Wars, like what happened back in the 1990s?
Man, I think just because there's competition that's on a major platform with a lot of money behind them, yeah, I'd say it's definitely competition. Will it turn into the Monday Night Wars? Well, because they're not going to technically be on the same night, but it certainly is competition, and I think it's good because I think nobody loves competition more than Vince McMahon, and I think it's good. I think it's best for the people that are fans of professional wrestling, because now, hey man, WWE's got their work cut out for them. They're the, cream of the crop when it comes to being at the top of the heap. And now you have this upstart organization starting with Tony Khan, and he's very passionate about the wrestling business. So I look forward to seeing what happens. And I always think it's good because if another company starts up, more of my friends in the business of wrestling can have jobs. So I dig it.
Thank you. Great question. Thank you. Hi.
Hey, what's up, Steve? Hey, by the way, I enjoyed your appearance in the Smosh movie.
Thank you very much. I think I showed my range as an actor.
Anywho, my question is, what are your greatest highlights in wrestling history?
Wow.
I don't want to sit there and say there are so many, but there were so many.
You've earned that. You can say that.
Hey man, I'll tell you what, laying out there in WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart, who's one of my favorites of all time. I love Bret Hart. And the reality and the grit and the determination that he brought to the business was unparalleled. He was reality in wrestling. And so laying in a pool of blood, first of all, the whole match was great, but just laying there in a pool of blood, allegedly passed out while him and Ken Shamrock were taking care of business, laying there in that pool of blood, I was so satisfied because we had done the task at hand. We'd gone out and executed a double turn at the highest level possible and put on one of the most iconic matches in the history of pro wrestling. And the picture of me laying there or trying to get to that sharpshooter with the blood coming down my face, one of the most iconic photos. So that was one of my most favorite treasured memories. And I got to go to WrestleMania 17, and I'll just do this one. But going out there in the Houston Astrodome, I grew up 100 miles from there, and to, at that time, an all-time indoor attendance record with The Rock. And The Rock was one of those guys where I brought out the best in him, and he brought out the best in me. And that crowd was almost 50-50, but it was probably 52-48 Austin, because we were in Texas. Had we been down in Miami, it could have been the other way. But that's the way it was. If you watch that thing back, and that was about 27 minutes of electricity going back and forth. And hey, I wish I hadn't turned heel at the end of that match, but I loved working with The Rock. And out of our trilogy of matches, being able to headline 3, 15, 17, and 19, when he would beat me and I would ride off into the sunset, 17 stands out as a highlight to me.
That's awesome. You touched a little bit before about the evolution of, Stone Cold, the persona and the character. How much influence do you have on the storylines versus the WWE?
Man, I tell you what, the higher you are up on the card, the better you get to know Vince McMahon, and the more you get to know yourself and grow into that character. And when, like I say, going back to 13, laying in that pool of blood, I entered the ring as a heel, left as somewhat of a babyface, but there's work to be done on the backside of that. So as you're feeling these things and you're just kind of playing it for what it is, each week you're never really going to know how the crowd's going to respond. So based on what I'm feeling, I would have heart-to-hearts with Vince, and I'd say, man, I don't feel it, man, I'm not feeling it, or he talked me into something. So it was a work in progress, and I was very hands-on, and he allowed me to be hands-on because you have to be.
Yeah.
And you have to trust each other. You saw some of those classic moments with myself and Vince. I loved working with that guy because when you work with someone, you want them to project back or exude that same passion and energy that you're giving them, because that's how it works. It's a give and take. And Vince was one of the few guys that when I was going, that his hatred for me and my, aggressive nature or hatred for him and storyline was so real that it just felt like magic. But behind the scenes, a lot of communication and a lot of hands-on.
Right. Hi.
Hi, loved you in Longest Yard. My question for you is both present and past. Who would you like to wrestle that you never have?
I'd have to go Hulk Hogan from the past because I just did a podcast with him down there at his home in Tampa. And that's the first time I really got a chance to know Terry. You know, we always kind of passed through territories or flipped territories and never spent a lot of time together. So hanging out with him was a real treat. And he said something to me. He said, you know, if we'd have gotten to a room and kind of like you cleared the air and just said, hey man, let's do this, let's make some money. Because there's a lot of egos there, and I thought a little bit of clashing styles, and I have nothing but respect for him. So I would say Hulk Hogan from back in the day, current Brock Lesnar. Everybody knows who followed me. I showed up at Monday Night Raw. Well, I didn't show up at Monday Night Raw. I was working with Ric Flair the night before in a cage in Columbus, Georgia, and I heard the creative, and I thought it sucked. And bad business move on my part, but I thought it was so stupid, I decided to no-show the event and went back to Texas. I wouldn't work for about another 8 months. And so, Brock Lesnar, to answer your question about current scene, who I would like to work with, because I wanted to make that one up. And myself and Brock would have put on a hell of a damn show. The reason I didn't job for that match was, it's hard to get in position to draw true money. And they just wanted me to roll over for him and make him in one night. Super bad business decision. The worst business decision was me not showing up.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello. So since wrestling, you've become a very successful businessman with your podcast, with your TV show, and also with your beer. So how did the collaboration between you and El Sogano Brewery come to fruition?
You know, I was going to get in the beer business a long time ago when we were doing some beer tasting with a beer company in upstate New York, and we were going to call it Stone Cold Beer. But then all of a sudden, the thing with Brock happens, and I walk out of the company. So I would have been in the beer business 15 years ago had I not, or longer than that, had I never walked out. So I always want to get back in the beer business. We started searching around. And my former agent, who works with UTA, was good friends with the owner of El Segundo Brewing Company, Rob Croxall. So I said, hey man, why don't we put you guys together and see if you guys like each other or speak the same language. We did. We sat around a table, created that beer, that recipe, and now we're increasing distribution because it's in such demand. And it's a tremendous IPA because it was built to my taste buds. So that's how it happened. I mean, it is. It's a high quality, badass beer, and any beer snob will tell you that that's a badass beer. It was a friend. My agent was a friend with the owner of El Segundo, and that's how it happened. And I love being in business with them because they're very passionate about the products that they put out and stand by them 100%, and that's the same way I am.
That's awesome. It's such a natural fit for you to have that. I mean, I'm surprised it took this long.
You know what? We pitched a couple of beer companies way back in the day, but I was a little bit on the aggressive side back in the day. I mean, it's like, hey man, this guy's help represent our company, and this was back in the peak of Stone Cold. So I guess everything happens for a reason. But going down there to Tampa and finally being able to be on the receiving end, drinking my own beer,
Yeah.
the proudest moments of my night, and that was the best beer I ever drank. And I would rotate those beers out. Sometimes I'd drink one or this one, or I'd change them out because I didn't get one of those companies too much exposure.
Right. Hi.
Hi, Steve. The Condemned is one of my favorite movies, and I was just wondering, was the script written for you, or how did that go about?
I went in there too. It wasn't written for me. You're talking about the Expendables, right?
No, The Condemned.
Oh, The Condemned. Oh, The Condemned, man. Who brought me that movie? Someone brought me that movie, and they said, man, this is a movie that needs to be made. And if you'd have saw the first original script, it was absolutely ridiculous. There were 8 rewrites of that movie, and finally it turned out to what it turned into. And got Vince behind it, and actually The Marine was supposed to be my first movie, and that was written for me. And here's how things work. So I got an agent, right? This is way back in the day when they really filmed The Marine. And my agent, The Marine wasn't that great of a script. Seating was tremendous. So my agent says, Steve, if you do this, it'll kill your movie career. You gotta have an opportunity to do something first. So it was the dumbest advice the damn agent ever gave me. And so John Cena made that movie, and a couple of years later we wrestled up The Condemned. And so The Condemned was basically, tailored around me. Don't always listen to an agent because they ain't as smart as they seem.
Isn't it kind of funny how sometimes the things you think are gonna hit don't, and the things you're like, that's nothing, those end up being the biggest kind of moments?
Yeah, and the thing about it is opportunity. You know, it's like when I came into WWF back in the day as the ringmaster, hey, I knew that when Vince was pitching it to me, I'm like, man, this really sucks. But I really need a paycheck.
Yeah.
'Cause I got a house, baby, and a wife and kids, so I need the money. So I went up there, and it was an opportunity. So yeah, take an opportunity, but obviously, when something's really, really bad, but take the opportunity.
That's great advice for everyone who wants to really be an artist in any form. Yeah. Hi.
Hi, so just recently the King of the Ring bracket just got released, and obviously you know about how being a King of the Ring master is with your iconic promos. I noticed that Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre are on the other side, but you were able to develop yourself from that promo and be a gigantic superstar. What are they missing from being that point in their careers?
Man, that's a real good question that I don't know that I have the answer just offhand for you because it require me to go back and watch. I DVR both shows and I watch when someone says, "Hey, man, you got to see this." So I'd have to sit there and really look and study what they're doing and listen to them to give you the best answer possible. And I don't think I'm equipped right now to do that. But I think both guys are super talented and both guys can get there, but it also has to do with their booking as well. They got to put, either one of them, if they put a green light on them, can achieve, much more than they're already doing. But they got to green light them and keep the green light on them.
Thank you. Great question. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, how you doing? Sorry.
You look great. Love
Thank
your
you.
shirt. Love your belt.
Got me thinking like I'm 10 years old again looking at you, Mr. Ross. That's how I'm like.
I think I was 10 years younger.
Okay, my question is like outside of wrestling or any other wrestlers, how did you craft your character and like what are your influences in pop culture at that time when you were really going for that anti-hero and everyone, really cheering for you?
Man, I really didn't have any influences at all. And remember that Stone Cold character was created because I was originally trying to be a heel off a serial killer, down there in Chicago, Iceman Richard Kuklinski. And I don't endorse anything the guy did. I'm just talking about I was trying to be a bad guy and this guy was ruthless and remorseless. He only inspired the name. Everything else, just the aggressive nature, coming into my own. You gotta understand, like if you go back when Macho Man finally got to the WWF, hell, he'd been working 10 years. He's one of the best workers that there was. Vince puts a green light on him and he turns into this global superstar. I was a nobody, but I had been in the business for 7.5 years and I pretty well worked my ass off. So when I got that gimmick, I guess I was influenced the most by my competitive nature as a human being to try to kick, scratch, and claw to get to the top of the ladder. But cultural influences, I didn't look towards anything. I was trying to influence culture.
Well, yeah. Hi.
Hey, how's it going? Stone Cold, big fan. Loved the first episode of your show. Interested in that beer, highly interested. So my question would be, involving yourself, what would be your top 5 matches of your career?
Wow, that's a tough one.
It's gonna be a real tough one, but I'll go WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart, WrestleMania 17, The Rock. A match that no one ever saw that wasn't there, Los Angeles, California, at the Forum with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And he was one of my favorite guys to work with. And I don't know, Calgary Stampede, that 10-man tag, how many guys were involved in that? When our team was supposed to be the baby faces. We go into Canada because that's our territory. They're the baby faces. So I was like a kid in a candy store. I said, hell, I'll work heel. And we tore that place down. So that's 3 or 4. And another high profile, I'm not gonna say 19. 19 hurt because that whole day was emotional. I was about to ride off into the sunset. I really enjoyed that 3 Stages of Hell that I did with Triple H in Las Vegas. And that guy, I'm laying there, we're both selling, Triple H is on top of me, his classic finish. And I'd actually blown a couple of high spots in that match. I think I was coming back from some type of injury. I blew up. People think I never blew up, I blew up. We're laying there in a heap and someone throws a damn beer can, a full beer can, over that cage and hits me right in the forehead. I like it, you know, if I could have just seen it and caught it, it'd been great. I wasn't ready for it. But if you check it out, watch that beer can bounce off my head.
Thank you. That's a great question. So paint us a picture. You're in the ring. You've started, you guys are doing the match. When do you know it's going so right? When do you know it's going to be one of those special moments?
You just, from the get-go, I knew when we were working WrestleMania 13 with Bret, we knew we had him from the get-go, and we were in the finish room earlier that day. Myself, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Vince McMahon. He runs the finish by us. I'm gonna pass out in the sharpshooter. And I'm thinking, I said, man, we walk around the ring a little bit. I circle back to Vince. I go back to Vince and say, hey man, do you think that finish is gonna work? Me passing out in the sharpshooter? He goes, oh, God dang it, Steve. Yeah, it'll be great. I go back there and talk, I'm buying, okay? I'm getting beaten and I'm passing out the sharpshooter. I go talk to Bret. He goes, man, if you're gonna pass out the sharpshooter, you need to have some color. I said, you think? And he goes, oh yeah. And so anyway, that's how that ended up happening, and going back to one of the most iconic photos or matches in history. But as soon as I tackled him, I went out there, and then here he comes. And when he came and hit that electric guitar riff on his entrance music, and shivers just went down my arms. And I was like, holy cow, this is, Bret Hart's coming to the ring, I'm fixing to kick his ass. As soon as I tackled him and we started punching and trading blows and going out, we had him right from the start, and that's when you know. It doesn't have to be a jump start, but you know when things are on, because it was a built match. That match was built, the angle was perfect. Execution on both parts and by Vince, the whole company, having Shamrock there, but you feel it.
Yeah, you feel it.
You gotta feel it. If you don't feel it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Hi.
Hey Steve, best finishing move in the history of the WWE. The stunner is the best. My son tries to do it to me at least once a day for 20 years.
Has he succeeded?
He has succeeded a few times. The Battle of 2000 was one of the best. I was just curious, anytime that went wrong, because I can imagine it might have gone bad. And who do you still like to hang out with, or do you hang out with anybody from your career?
Oh, were you asking about a stunner going wrong? Yeah, sometimes your timing can get mixed up, and there's been a couple referees that blew it. When you're going down, it's kind of a rhythm. You kick, and then you kind of ride up, and you come down, and I don't just cinch up and just grab them. It's just kind of a loose grab, and so they want to go down to the knees or just bend over like Scott Hall did. But if the timing ain't there, anything can happen. If you go back and watch that one stunner you just saw in Madison Square Garden, that first one that I hit Vince with, we almost missed it because he discombobulated Vince. I love him. I respect him. But damn, is he clumsy. So we readjusted, and I got him. And you just saw when Kevin Owens tried to stun Shane a couple weeks back, they messed that up. So it can happen. And what was the second part of your question?
You still hang out with from the day?
No, me and Kevin Nash will still talk a lot. But, like I said earlier, man, I'm a loner. I'll text people every now and then, but I'm real bad about keeping up with people. But I try my best to.
Thank you so much. Hi, come on up. Don't be shy. Get on up here.
So big fan of the podcast. Your two-parter with Vampiro was awesome. It was a great business chat. Awesome. From your podcast, you have recommended the CPAP. Do you still sleep with the CPAP? Because of your recommendation, I got on it. I'm sleeping great. What's your preferred mask?
Man, I go, my machine is a ResMed. I use a full mask because I was at the ear, nose, and throat doctor about 6 months ago, and he looked at my nose and he goes, because I've had my nose broke so many times, I got deviated septum, so that's why I use a CPAP. So yeah, I use a full mask, use a ResMed, and I sleep with it every single night. Every now and then I'll get on an airplane if it's a long flight, and I try not to sleep. Because I'll tell people, I said, hey man, if I start snoring, just give me the elbow, so I'll shut up. So I was sitting next to this older gentleman a couple years ago, and I said, hey man, if I fall asleep and start snoring, just give me the elbow. Well, they didn't give me the elbow. About six hours later, we landed, and I'm over stretching, and he looked at me and goes, you weren't kidding about snoring, were you? Hey dude, all you had to do was wake me up. I sleep with it every night. And so if you wear a CPAP, or if your wife or your husband tells you, hey, you're snoring like crazy or you're not breathing, go get a sleep check, man. Like I said, I'm an advocate for the CPAP machine.
And good for you. I'm glad you're sleeping better. We have time for 2 more questions, so hi.
How's it going? Nice to meet you. You've been part of the infamous beer bath, and you were part of the infamous Milkomania bath. How did it feel to get trenched down with milk?
Man,
These are the hard-hitting questions.
It's a lot more fun to get doused with beer than it is milk. Milk is sticky, and I like it on my Captain Crunch, but I don't want it all over my clothes. Beer, well, I gotta say, I used to do so many beer bashes back in the day, and I took a pretty good shower, but you still smell like beer, you know, so if I ever got pulled over, man, if I roll my window down, the cop just smell me and goes, you gotta be drunk. And there's many times when I walked out of that ring with a hell of a buzz because, you know, a lot of people say I spilled a lot of that beer. Yeah, I did. I'm in the show business. But you drink a lot of it too, and you can go out there with a hell of a buzz. So I had to be responsible about it. But yeah, beer better than milk.
I think we all agree, right? Beer better. All right, last question. Hi, how are ya?
Hi there. Steve, quick question going back to WrestleMania 17. Was there ever a moment, or how close were you to calling an audible and giving Vince a stunner?
Only in hindsight, you know, retrospect, I look at calling that audible. I was full in. It was my idea. And leading into that, I was running pretty hard on the road. People always say, man, what do you mean running pretty hard? I was living hard. Okay, we were always on the road, and I was drinking a lot. So, but going into that event, you know, I'm being very frank with you, I thought I was kind of flatlining, you know, in my mind. And Rock was really coming on. And so I figured, hey, this would be a great time to turn heel because that's just how the business is. You ride a lightning bolt for a while, and then you ride a lightning bolt the other direction just to, you know, do something different. And I've always liked working heel better than baby. So anyway, in retrospect, I always say that I should have called that audible. And I think if I'd have done it on the day, that night in the Astrodome, if I'd have said, just told Vince, hey man, watch the stunner, he'd have took it and we'd have continued my babyface run. Because as soon as that match started, I was so on fire with that crowd, I just think I was feeling the road more than what the crowd, you know, I was thinking I was flatlining, but truly I wasn't, but that's just the way I was feeling. I wish I would have called that audible and never done that heel run, but it did bring me so many different memories, and I was able at least to, the reason I did a lot of the comedy I did was just because I had some broke bones in my back and I couldn't work, so we ad-libbed that, but yeah, I should have stayed a baby.
Thank you so much. And Steve, thank you so much. You're amazing. You've had an amazing career. Best of luck with the show. One more big round of applause. Stone Cold Steve Austin!
Hey, thank you guys for coming out today. I appreciate all the support over all the years. I remember when I started wrestling a long time ago, and it was really the back end of 1989, and I was a 1990 Rookie of the Year. And I remember wrestling in front of 20 people before, and Chevrolet parking lots, getting suplex on the parking lot, and then finally you start climbing up the ranks, and you get some opportunity after fighting all the bureaucratic red tape, and you get on top, and then you go down for a neck surgery, and you come back, and the people come right back for you and support you. So to my fans that have always stuck with me through thick and thin, through my good decisions and my bad decisions, I'm thankful for every single one of you, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.